Right, didn't get better, did it? After sleeping on it, it's woke up, it's pissing down like you won't believe, and that just absolutely fits the mood of everything at the moment. Every single group chat I'm in, talking about the manager's future. Every single group chat I'm in, arguments going off left, right, and centre. No one's got any sort of clear, unified opinion, and it's getting minging. Um, and listen, I get accused of being too positive, right? And at the same time too negative. I think I'm just down the middle, and I think what happens is people just go extreme positive and extreme negative, and I like to try and kind of sit down the middle. And if anything, I do like to lean on the positive side because I like football, and I'm not into that toxic sort of like people losing their minds. I've been a fucking war, man. I got a little bit of perspective in my life. You're not going to see me absolutely having a meltdown, screaming in front of the camera about what's going on with the football. Yes, I care about it. Yes, I want us to do well. Yes, I am involved in this thing all day, every single day, and it matters to me. But I think you've also got to have a little bit of perspective in here as well. For everybody screaming, get rid of the manager, I don't think there's a standout candidate. I also don't think that there's evidence, because there isn't, that changing a manager works. The number one impact in how you are successful as a football team is your player recruitment. Now, we don't have goals. And whether that's down to recruitment and whether that's down to player form, ultimately, it doesn't matter. You can put Pep Guardiola in charge of fucking Luton. They're not winning the Premier League. But people have this perception of that's what happened. The evidence is out there and it's being studied because people spend a lot of money hiring and firing coaches. And people still get it wrong. The vast majority of managers don't have as big of an input as the media would like you to believe. There are outliers. Really, really bad managers will have a team underperforming, and really, really good managers will have a team overperforming. But the amount that they overperform or underperform is only the equivalent of an overperforming or an underperforming player, right? That's not Steve's opinion. That's people who've studied it and gone into serious actual research is opinion. You know, when you look at the Soccernomics book, the example that they give is Leon. Leon, in a 9-year period, won 9 titles and had 4 managers in that time. Did they happen to appoint the best manager in the world at the time, or were they just the best team in France? And I think there's a lot of and it goes off on loads of different tangents, and I'm about why racism still exists to a certain degree in management, because people can't objectively quantify how good a manager is. It's an almost impossible task to look at how good a manager is doing versus how good a manager should be doing. It's very, very difficult, and there's so much context and other things that play into whether this guy is a good manager or whether this guy is a bad manager. And a lot of people don't wrap their heads around that. Now, I think managers require time. I think all managers require more time than they get. When you look at the average lifespan of any manager across professional football, I think it's entirely too short. That isn't going to change. My opinion on that isn't going to change. And I think when you look at the impact certain managers have, you get a bit of a new manager bounce. Why do you get a new manager bounce? You get a new manager bounce because it's a different message. You get a bit of a clean slate for a load of players. So some players that might have been outcast by a previous manager, because that happens. Managers do have favourites. And when you get outcast by the outgoing manager, the new manager comes in, and you put a little bit of effort in, and it might have residual effect for 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 games. After that, the team defaults to its sort of natural setting, and you can see that from team to team to team to team. And in the last decades since Sir Alex Ferguson. We went from Sir Alex Ferguson, who was an outlier in terms of he got more out of the sum of the parts of his team than the average. And then we've probably just had average managers. I don't think anyone, including Moyes, I don't think David Moyes is the right appointment for Manchester United, but I don't think anybody, including David Moyes, is fundamentally a bad manager. And the evidence for that is, well, he's just gone and won a European trophy at West Ham, and he's managed successfully. Now, he was very poor following getting binned from United, and again, there's several factors in that. The sort of jobs that he's taken, and probably his confidence got absolutely destroyed by taking on the job at Manchester United. Lou van Gaal, not a bad manager. Jose Mourinho, not a bad manager. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, not a bad manager. Ralf Rangnick, not a bad manager. And Erik ten Hag, he's not a bad manager. Now, you look objectively and you want to try and zoom in on sort of like small areas and see in bits of improvement. And you also want to zoom out and look at the bigger picture of what's actually going on here. What's actually going on? Big picture, it's not been good enough. But if you just say it's not been good enough and don't try and diagnose the why, you're never going to improve. Ever. You have to look at the whys. First season, top 4 and a trophy. And it kind of came in a couple of spells. Started really bad, got really good, and ended really bad in that first season. Second season, never got going and got progressively worse as the injuries mounted. Okay? So our data from those 2 seasons was what? That it probably wasn't good enough over the whole, but we did come away with 2 trophies. And you can't discount the 2 trophies. There's a lot of luck involved in winning cup competitions, and the league ultimately is the one where you can judge the ability of a football team. This season, we've started better. We are playing better football. We are less vulnerable on a transition. We are playing out better. We are creating more chances. But we're not scoring goals. When we lose, it's 3-0, weirdly. We're not winning enough. We're not scoring enough. And the results, sadly, do not reflect the performances. And it is a results business. Right now, I think that Erik ten Hag is in trouble. Some things that are going on might not be his fault, but they are his responsibility. Strikers missing more chances than any other team in the league. Not just strikers. The Manchester United team missing more chances than any other team in the league. Not his fault, but it is his responsibility. Manchester United conceding goals and losing games when we've actually performed well. Not his fault, but it is his responsibility. Our position in the table might not be his fault, but it is his responsibility. Now, I said yesterday, I think he gets the Porto game, and I think he gets the Aston Villa game. And I think a lot of emphasis will go into those games. I almost think it's a little bit like the FA Cup final, where they're like, listen, the style of play is important, your philosophy is important, but if you still want to be here after next week, winning is actually the most important thing in this situation. I don't know how draws go. I really don't know how the draws go for him. I think if he wins, he sticks around. But again, that's not a permanent situation. He's going to have to keep collecting those lives to keep playing the game. This is like playing an arcade game back in the day. You got to hit the time trial to get another lap, otherwise you're out. And he's going to have to do that. I think if he loses If he loses at least one and draws the other, he's gone. If he loses both, he's gone. I think if you win and draw, I don't know. If you win and lose, I don't know. I'm pretty sure if you don't win either and lose one of them, he's definitely gone. And whether that's his fault, it is his responsibility. Now, I don't think that guarantees we do any better on the flip side, because I just don't think that sort of stuff works. But I do think that's what will happen. And, like I already covered yesterday, Ineos have got a big situation on their hands because they backed this guy mere months ago. And they did an evaluation of all the managers in the world, supposedly, interviewed some, and decided Erik ten Hag was the man. They look silly if they go back on that now. People go, he's been here 3 years. It's his 3rd year. He's been here 2 years. He's only over, and then people want to start bringing in the signings. I can absolve him some of the blame, not all of the blame, some of the blame of the signings, because I think a lot of the signings have been sort of an example of just how badly this football club was run prior to Ineos coming in. At the moment, the signings that he's brought in this season under Ineos, they look pretty good. That's my sort of honest thoughts on. I sat here to do 5 things, and I didn't do 5 things, and I'll do 5 things in a minute after I've done this. The amount of time this has took now, I'll just upload this on its own. But yeah, it's his responsibility. That's my thoughts.